Guys, welcome back to GunCon 2024. I'm Luke C, and I'm here with Alex from TANDEMKROSS, and he's got the new Manticore for the 1022.
Yes, so this is our Manticore X Ruger for 1022.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what it takes is the idea of a drop-in trigger pack, and instead of a need for the receiver and then the stock and chassis to capture the trigger pack to keep it from falling out of the receiver,
Right.
It takes that trigger pack and turns it into something more like an AR lower.
Yeah.
So with the two pins that you usually would use to mount the trigger pack to your receiver, with our captured ball and detent pins, now you actually have basically any 1022 now being turned into a takedown model.
So basically what you guys have done is you've taken the takedown concept, but your literal receiver is the only thing that's being attached. So this technically isn't even a firearm, right?
Correct. So the quote-unquote lower, which we just kind of adopted for colloquially from an AR, still is just for all intents and purposes, trigger pack. So there's no serialization going on for that. The upper is still the serialized part for the 1022. So buying directly at shows, shipping to people's houses, either way, you're all set to go as far as that part's concerned.
Okay. So, and in terms of features, there's a couple things we've got going on here with the Manticore X. I guess we'll do it backwards. Let's start at the back because you guys have not a proprietary, but a custom stock for it.
Correct. So we have a folding Picatinny buttstock. The buttstock itself has two different screw heights for adjustment, so it's like a quarter to a half inch of a little bit of some height play. The actual folder can be reversed, so you can fold right or left, and then that mounts to the back end of the integral stock or brace mount for the lower, for the Manticore X, which accepts just any standard Picatinny. So you can use ours, but if you've already got a favorite at home, we're not going to be offended. You can put your favorite on there as well, as long as it mounts Picatinny. The mount for that is reversible, so you can flip it over. You can have it straight inline, kind of AR style, or you can drop at like a 12-degree angle if you're running iron sights or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have like an optic that's maybe sitting a little bit lower.
Yep, some low bore axis type stuff going on there. And then in between that, it's like a friction hold, so there's a little like a little boss kind of thing, but we actually built a QD cup into it, so you can flip that over too. Okay. So if your folder's folding on the right, you don't want your sling mount underneath trapped on there.
Stuck and everything.
Right. So you flip it over, make it super custom from there. But then there's also a direct integral AR style pistol grip mount too. So beaver tail, no beaver tail. You can use ours, again, as long as it follows mil-spec hole pattern. You can use your other BYOB kind of deal.
Yeah, so I can take like a standard M4 pistol grip and just toss it on the Manticore X.
A1 or whatever,
cool.
At Magpul MOE, something like that, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
I love Magpul stuff. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then from there, it's actually fully assembled with all of our internals already. Yep. So the fire control group is already built into it, fully adjustable for trigger pull weight. So with a single set screw, righty-tighty is heavier, lefty-loosey is lighter. You can actually get it down to about 2.5 pounds. It leaves factory at like 3.5 for like a nice middle of the road. Or dial it all the way back up to like 5+ pounds. Yeah. So bench rest with like a minimum pull weight cutoff or something like that. Either way, your one lower is going to.
If you're out like hunting squirrels with it, you want a little bit of added layers of safety. And then I guess the other end of the setting is for steel challenge junkies like myself.
Steel challenge, like I just want to go fast. I don't care.
Ricky Bobby, I want to go fast.
You're not first, you're last.
That's right.
And then on top of that, so it's got our textured trigger shoe as well, which is over travel adjustable, so you can take out a lot of the reset. Okay. The texture is nice, so that way you've got a nice control and grip. It's a flat face, so you can actually get some further perceived pull weight drop because you can get all that mechanical advantage with leverage on there. And then we have our rotary style safety selector. So in the way of the trigger guard is safe. Throw it forward out of the way is for fire. Right. So it's kind of like a nice solid visual indicator, especially for those competition guys. Yeah. The RO doesn't have to ask you like flip the gun over to make sure it's unsafe. It's ambidextrous, the lever's on both sides, so that's nice and easy to work with. And then we've got the magazine release, which is the same one we've always had. So the fire switch, it's push or pull.
Push
either
or
way.
pull.
Yep. Gotcha. So bidirectional. And we've also got our extended bolt keeper, which makes it so that way I can use my shooting hand instead of having to switch hands to manipulate that.
I've been shooting a 1022 for forever, and I still have trouble finding that little blade on the bottom of the gun just to lock the bolt open. And so that actually makes it kind of convenient, even just if you're, no matter what you're doing, it's a safety feature. So.
Especially for any of those, like someone who's teaching their kid or something to shoot, now instead of them fumbling with the gun, you know, it's that much easier to manipulate it for them as well. Gloved hands, you name it. It's got the built-in auto bolt release function, so instead of having to touch it again to drop the bolt, I can just slingshot it like I would any other firearm you would expect to do that with. And then that's kind of like the really big parts of it, but it's easy with that 2-pin takedown system. So takedown actual like official Ruger takedown models or typical V-block fixed barreled actions. Either way, the 2 pins, R2 receiver cross pins, pop those out, you're already done.
So I guess theoretically, if I wanted to, I could take a 1022 takedown upper, slap it on the Manticore X, and then completely disassemble my gun, I guess like Hitman style or whatever.
Absolutely. Just throw that thing in the backpack as long as your
gun guys
is.
like Legos anyway, so like, you know, this is pretty good for that.
Exactly.
What are we talking about in terms of availability and price point for the Manticore X?
Yeah, so availability, we actually launched it last November, so it's up on the website, regularly available right now. All the individual parts are available, so the actual lower itself, the stock, the grip, and the forend. The forend is a nice feature to have available on its own, because if you have multiple receivers, that part doesn't have to come off for that takedown process, so you can build it on there. Now you can have dedicated use-purpose receivers.
So the forend is directly attached to your upper, the registered part of the firearm.
Yeah, so if you've got a bipod on one and lights on the other, or foregrips or something like that, you don't have to worry about having to remove those or anything again. So those are just going to sit there. It basically goes through where the takedown screw would otherwise be.
Yeah. This is, I mean, it's just off the top of my head, this is kind of adaptable in the way that, like, if you have multiple 1022 uppers that you use for rimfire PRS, and then you have one for steel challenge and one for squirrel hunting.
Right.
You can slap it on the same lower if you like your. Honestly, I like this is basically like an AR-15 for 1022s.
Right. Literally. So that's where and even just with the name calling it the lower, that's where we got the inspiration for that. The other cool thing about it too is that now, because your optic, barrel, and receiver actually stay together, you don't have to worry about any shift in zero. And every time you do take it apart, your barrel isn't going to be shifting or any sort of potential differences going on with that.
Yeah.
So barreled action actually stays as a total cohesive unit every time you take it apart.
Okay. And in terms of compatibility, are there any limitations on what aftermarket parts I can dump into like my upper that will still work with the Manticore?
So it's pretty widely compatible as long as it's following the like true to factory Ruger hole pattern for your receiver cross pins. That's the big one. It won't receive or accept any sort of receivers that have like the like embedded stock tangs on the back. So like for those like PRS guys that have the tang that comes off the back, it won't take one of those. But for the most part, as long as it's not something crazy proprietary, it should be play pretty well with
screw-in barrel uppers, those work too?
I'd have to double check on that one, honestly.
Because like this one right here, the V block, that's like the most traditional kind. So yeah, and
even a actual true 1022 takedown will work on this. The only thing to keep in mind is you can't put our M-lock part on it then instead, because it's going to have whatever forends on that barrel.
Just throw a carbon fiber barrel on there and you don't have to worry about it anyway.
Right, so. Exactly.
Thanks, Alex, for showing us the new Manticore X. And guys, thank you for tuning in to TFBTV Showtime. Stay tuned for more from GunCon 2024.